Are you ready for the season finale? I hope so, because this month we're going to look at 3 movies in one of my favorite childhood franchises. That's right, it's time for a month of Pokemon!
Pokemon? This is Yu-Gi-Oh! Town,
Oh, that's right. My mistake. Yeah, this is a month for Yu-Gi-Oh! Oh, hell yeah. If there's one game-based anime that I love more than others, it's Yu-Gi-Oh! Having made its start in 1996 in Weekly Shonen Jump by Kazuki Takahashi, what started as like a supernatural-themed series with a light hint of horror ended up spawning one of the most recognizable card games from Japan, including an anime that even now continues to grow and expand with new concepts and new ideas. Most of them good, and some not so much, but we can't help but enjoy them in some shape or form. Now for this month, I'm going to be going over 3 of the 4 movies currently out, and may save the last one until I get around to Arc 5, which I will do next April, since by then the current storyline will either be over, or a new series will spawn. Either way, I'm way overdue on my promise to return to it, so look forward to a month of that. For now, we need to start from the beginning, and how appropriate that the first movie we look at comes from the very first anime for the series, Yu-Gi-Oh!, otherwise known by fans as Season 0. Before Nihon Ad Systems and Studio Gallop, Toei Animation was in charge of adapting the first 7 volumes of the manga. Volumes that didn't focus a lot on the card game aspect as much as the later volumes would, as it focused on providing the supernatural horror element to a number of games that might be simple or complex, but otherwise deadly. It helped make what would be another high school driven series more unique, especially given its ties to Egypt. Now if you don't know who some of these characters are, well, I would suggest looking at my Doma arc review, but first I have to re-upload it, though knowing how these things work, I'll likely run into some copyright issues, so maybe in January, since I'm doing another video game review, but otherwise, I'll try and go over any characters who might be important. Anyway, today's movie is simply called Yu-Gi-Oh!, though from YouTube it seems to also use Legendary Red Eyes Black Dragon as its subtitle. But anyway, this came out March of 1999, several months after Toei's run of the anime ended in October. However, in terms of continuity, even though at least 2 of the movies don't count for it, this supposedly takes place after episode 3, where Yugi duels Kaiba, but sometime before episode 21, which is when the Death T arc began. So it'll be interesting to see what they chose to do here over the first series in relation to what may have been going on in the manga in the meantime. So break out them decks and get ready to get your game on. Wrong series, I know, for this is Yu-Gi-Oh! We open in a card shop, where our main supporting character of the movie, Shogo, is here to buy some Duel Monsters cards, despite never winning any duels and being too timid in front of his friends. I should probably mention that in the first series, they say that cards are so popular that someone in America sold their house just to get 1 card. Funny how the world worked back in early Yu-Gi-Oh!
それはレッドアイズブラックドラゴン。デュエルモンスターズの中でもブルーアイズホワイトドラゴンと並ぶ伝説のレアカードだ。
Red Eyes. Having first shown up in Duelist Kingdom, it was once owned by a duelist named Rex Raptor, who coincidentally cameos in this movie, before being turned over to Joey Wheeler, who has since made it his iconic monster, gaining various support cards even after Duel Monsters ended. It was at about this point that the monster had at least 1 fusion for it, while another gets revealed during this movie. Otherwise, here it shares the same concept that it's another legendary monster similar to Blue Eyes White Dragon, in that while it doesn't bring victory, it can bring out the potential to those with the courage to fight. I think we all know what that will mean, but for now, opening music! Yeah, it's the same opening as the TV anime, just different clips. In particular, of Yugi and friends going out to hang out at where Teo works, even though I guess Japanese high school students aren't allowed to have jobs yet, all to play some duel monsters while Kaiba spies on them, I guess. I also find it weird that they have to explain what Duel Monsters is, even though they already did it in the TV anime. It hasn't even been that long, and yeah, they did call it by Magic and Wizards during the early years, but I don't think people would forget about this. I guess this is for those who don't know what Yu-Gi-Oh even is, but anyway, if you're wondering who this girl is, well that's Miho Nosaka. In the manga, she was just a shy librarian Tristan had a crush on, but in the Toei anime, she's another major friend character. Though in this movie, she, along with Tristan and Taya, will have no major part in this movie. Instead, it's the Yugi and Joey Variety Hour, or half hour. Yeah, for a movie, it only lasts about the same length as an OVA. At any rate, they overhear Shogo getting pestered by his friends because of his claims he could finally beat them in a duel.
負けないよ絶対にだってだって僕持ってるんだレッドアイズドラゴンのカードをレッドアイズ
Nowadays, this wouldn't be a big deal, but back then, there weren't that many monsters that had that high attack power. Sure, Dark Magician exists too, but remember, most of those cards are extremely rare, and even then, Blue Eyes was the most powerful at the time. Early Yu-Gi-Oh! Rules weren't as complex as they would later become, so it would often come down to having strong monsters and hopefully good spell and traps. So then we get a basic backdrop of Shogo's character and what this means for the movie's plot.
一流のデュエリストになるのが夢なんだけど、カード使いこなせてなくてさ。下手ってこと？っていうか、負けるのが怖くて勝負に出られないみたい。
お前とやっても面白くねえんだよ。
そのせいで友達とゲームをすることまで怖くなっちゃってて。
It's basically a lesson in overcoming the fear of losing, using a card meant to be a counterpart to something more powerful. How well can they use this within a half hour and with a one-shot character? Well, for now, we see Kaiba actually set up this little building to see what duelists had, because he wants rare cards and is going to do so in typical old-school Kaiba fashion.
Yugi, ただ一人。この俺と引き分けたデュエリスト貴様との決着をつける必ずデュエリストの頂点に立つのはこの俺だ
Oh, and of course that. Because rivalry is strong no matter which series this is. Shogo believes that as long as he has red eyes, he will be strong enough without having to duel. But that won't stop Kaiba from sending him an invitation to a tournament, where like in Battle City, the loser has to give up a card of the winner's choice. Oh, and it's a mandatory invite, as Shogo is being forced into going. Naturally, Joey feels left out without even doing much to Kaiba at this point.
待ってよ、無理やり参加させるなんて。
招待状を読まなかったか。出場の義務はあるが欠席の権利はない。
そんな大会なら僕も出ない。
カイバ様が許しはしないだろう。
カイバ。
そうか、この大会はカイバ君。
I should also point out that early Yu-Gi-Oh! Was where everything was so crazy that people can literally force you into things you don't want to. It was just nuts seeing the different things people will do to each other over simple issues. All just to make the games more exciting later on. Well, since this can't be solved by the police, as this is clearly violating some kind of human right, Joey has to be a man and hold this guy off while they run for it. Yugi takes the time to talk to Shogo about why he stopped playing.
今日の大会は別としても、ゲームをしないなんて君は本当にそれでいいの？それが君の夢、君のなりたかったデュエリストなの？
いいんだよ、僕は強いんだ。このカードがあるから。
翔吾君、本当にそう思ってる？本当に？
You know, this probably would be fine for an episode of the TV anime. In fact, since it is only a half hour long, it should have been that. Another episode, or an OVA. Shogo's character fits within one-shot character territory, since we don't get enough outside the basic premise of him to want to see him grow. Had this have been longer, or have him actually duel at some point, I could see this being a decent side movie that introduces Red Eyes as this great motivator against the more powerful Blue Eyes. Why should I really care about this character we're never gonna see again? Anyway, we're now about 12 minutes in, and Joey learns that the two lost both Red Eyes and the Millennium Puzzle? Well then again, Kaiba did experience Yami Yugi's Dark game, so I think he might know about the item's power, or he just needed a reason to get him to come. Anyway, time for Kaiba to go street punk on this goon.
Yugi, なんとかこいつだけは取り戻したぜ。だが、千年パズルはもういいやつに。
Shogo is still too afraid to fight, even with his card back. So after a brief emotional moment, Yugi decides he'll duel Kaiba for what he's done to them. Joey, of course, having Shogo watch so he can learn something. With that, Yugi enters the duel arena.
ようやくその気になったようだ。
海馬くん、僕は君のやり方絶対に許さない。
Now that's a cool transformation. But before they get to dueling, Kaiba decides they'll duel using expert rules, which also involve the duel discs from Duelist Kingdom. Now they really are going against continuity, as he made those to fight Pegasus. Now they're just taking after the duel this shows up in, but with a different outcome. The life point system is a bit different here, but still. Well, the one thing that doesn't change is the pretty imagery. Granted, it's not as flashy as the later series would, but still. The monsters come to life! Oh my god, so good!
どうしてみんな怖くないんだろう。僕もあんな風に戦えたら。
Back to the duel. You might be wondering where Curse of Dragon went after Gaia the Fierce Knight comes out. Well, guess what? This duel follows closely to the Bandai rules of duel monsters, where attacking a monster with a higher original defense than original attack will destroy your monster anyway. More importantly, for a time, Bandai had the rights to the Duel Monsters card game when the manga reached Duelist Kingdom, but only 3 booster packs were ever made for it until Konami took over in 1999. It's kinda interesting how different these cards looked compared to their later designs, but of course, Japan kept it simple until it was time to go for the international designs, since monsters started getting longer text. Anyway, the obvious happens. Blue Eyes makes another visit to attack our hero, but in another take from the manga, Yugi makes this play.
さらにトラップカードを1枚出してターン終了だ。
トラップ。
シルクハットは4つ。どれかに隠れているブラックマジシャンを当てれば俺のライフポイントは削れる。だがトラップカードを当てれば。
そういうことか。確率は4分の1。いいだろう。ブルーアイス、右のシルクハットを攻撃だ。バーストストリーム。
当たりだぜ。トラップカード闇十二世の呪縛。
It's just like with the Ghost Kaiba duel, but you know, seeing it here makes me wonder how the series would have turned out if Toei kept the license. Sure, the art style wouldn't be as good as the sleeker, more colorful Gallop version, but it might have kept the dark themes from the manga more often. Now, in a twisted take on Blue Eyes' Ultimate Dragon, Kaiba ends up bringing forth all 3 Blue Eyes at once by using a single spell card. And this form is called Blue Eyes White Dragon's 3-body connection. The Bandai card says it can attack 8 times while having the same attack power as Ultimate Dragon. Well, this seems a bit overkill, especially since for some reason there's some rule that prevents direct attacks, the same term as nuking the field. It's like none of the writers in the anime know how this game works. Yugi ends up drawing Red Eyes, but due to needing to inspire Shogo, holds off on playing it right away. Instead, he gets monsters destroyed turn after turn, while Joey tells Shogo he needs to watch.
強引なのは分かってる。だが戦いもしねえでデュエリストの幻にしがみついてんのは我慢できねえ。カード抱え込んで夢見んのはよせ。
そうか。城之内くん、逃げてばかりいる正吾に戦えと。
Eventually, Yugi summons one key monster called a Meteor Dragon, and at this point Kaiba decides to use the Bandai equivalent to stop defense to force it into attack mode, but has to wait a turn to actually attack. At this point, Yugi will lose, so Shogo has a decision to make. Will he run away, or will he fight?
俺は諦めないぜ。デュエリストの強さは勝利の可能性を信じて最後まで戦い続ける勇気があるかどうかで決まる。
青木竜は勝利をもたらす。しかし赤木竜がもたらすものは勝利にあらず可能性なり。ただし戦う勇気がある者だけに。
戦う勇気。
強さは憧れてるだけじゃ手に入らねえ。自分で掴むもんだ。
やるよ、僕も戦う。
聞こえねえぜ、ショゴ。
僕も戦う。行け、僕のレッドアイズドラゴン。
何？
待ってたぜ、その言葉。
Oh, hell yeah! Awesome Summon was awesome! So what's the potential that comes from Red Eyes? Why fusion, of course, and combining with Meteor Dragon, it brings out Meteor Black Dragon. And for some reason it breaks the evil chain and makes Kaiba's monster weak enough to lose to it. Oh well, symbolic victory! And so, after Kaiba leaves, Yugi congratulates Shogo for finding his courage and returns his card to him. With that, the credits show him actually dueling now, while the end song from the TV anime plays. So that was the first Yu-Gi-Oh movie. Wasn't too great, but wasn't bad. It just seemed like it would have worked better as a regular episode or OVA rather than a movie. Unless they mean TV movie, but whatever. It was alright overall. While the animation quality is still a bit lax compared to later series, it did improve a bit over Toei's first attempt at the series in regards to the duel action. And it was also nice to see them update the characters to match more to their actual manga counterparts, as well as the card designs and terminology. I still wish they could have expanded the length of this movie and did more with Shogo, as the lesson is fine for a game-based anime for youthful teens that the series was for, and not to mention, the lack of Yugi's other friends seemed odd to me. In the end though, I did enjoy the duel, and that's something the series tends to excel at the most. The duel action. And that of course can only get better over time. Speaking of, tune in next time when we take a look at a movie inspired by one of the most notorious dubbing companies in the world, Pyramid of Light. I'll see you then.